Join us for a review of the all-new Ford Kuga, the all-new Ford Escape. Let's go! Now looking at the front, of course, it's a way sportier styling than before. It almost reminds a little bit of Porsche design, with very round floating lines and so on. A big front grille. This one is the Vignale version, so this is the high luxury top trim level, which is, at the end of the day, then double the price in the base version most of the time. What's quite cool is that it has this bright, shiny front grille, but you can also get a base front grille, or when you pick the ST line, the sportier version, then you go with a black front grille, so depending on your liking. 4.62 meters, 15'2" or 182 inches is the length of the new Kuga or Escape. It's about 9 centimeters or 3.5 inches longer than before. Also slight increase in wheelbase have they done. Also 17 to 20 inch wheels maximum. These are indeed the maximum 20 inch wheels. Of course, comfort wise, we cannot expect too much from that. It would be a better compromise to go for smaller wheels if you want a better compromise between this look and also still some riding comfort. Here the Vignale version again has a special badge and also this chrome style lower indicator right there. So definitely the elegant experience, but of course you'll also be fine with the other trim levels. In the rear we can see that the tail lamps are now more horizontal and also have this 3D sculpturing right there, so a little bit more modern than before. In the lower end, again, the Vignale contrast. Well, this white color here today, it also looks pretty cool as long as it's clean. That's the thing with white cars, definitely. Today, and the most interesting model is the 2.5 liter petrol engine, which is mated with an electric motor, so it's the plug-in hybrid front-wheel drive, 225 horsepower system output, 9.2 seconds is the acceleration figure, battery size 14.4 kilowatt hours, 50 kilometers or 30 miles all electric range. Well, in the front left driver's side here you can open the electric charging plug-in function. Here is also illuminated, very nice. AC of course, and we do not have the exact figure here, kilowatt figure, at the time we shoot this review, but even with a normal household plug it would already charge fully in about 4 hours. Inside we have this nice luxury feature here that when we turn on the ignition the seat is going forward then a little bit, so we have to remember to keep it also in this position then when we get in the rear again. Only thing is here when this car is always complaining sound wise, also when you for example leave the light on or something and you get these sounds and so on. Overall the seating position here, as for the head clearance, no problem, 1 meter 86 or 6'1". This is the version with panoramic roof, but it still works for tall people. Interior overview is again pretty much straightforward. So straightforward for this Ford. That means everything is easy to control. The build quality is, I'll say, okay, not top notch, but again, here, soft touch here on the top part. Then this wood style deco element is also quite fancy. This is also soft touch. The AC unit looks a little bit old school, but the good thing is you still have a manual AC unit. You can control it very well while driving, also for the seat heating and so on. So I really prefer to have that. Let's continue down for first here. USB-C and USB-A device, so two available to charge your phone, or inductive charging is possible. Then in the lower part, adaptive cup holders. And this shifting lever here is quite interesting. It's not a lever, it's this turning gear selector. And we know that, for example, from Jaguar Land Rover, L for more recuperation mode, D for normal driving mode, and neutral, and R for reverse. And we now already hear the electric sound. And cool is when you're, for example, in D, and then when Jonas focuses on this one here now, on the ring. So when I open the door, magic, the car automatically puts it in P, but not only in an electric way, but really turning this ring here. Infotainment screen, 8-inch. Usually it always comes with that. Most markets directly get it standard, but the GPS then is optional. Here this is the Apple CarPlay view, and we have the it's an old school discotheque style, but in the vocal version. It's actually quite nice from this B&O sound system. I heard clearer ones yet, but of course it's worth the upgrade if you're a music lover. We can also test it with another song. Let's see. Yeah, has a quite good surround sound indeed. Yeah, because you hear that there's a top speaker behind it, so that's actually quite cool. Bass is still analog, optional than 12.3-inch digital instruments here for the Kuga or for the Escape. And you can see on the left side the normal speed. In the middle part you can change some things around then, so you have the possibilities there. Like here, select screens, for example, whatever you want to have there. And on the right side, actually, this would be then the power meter for the plug-in hybrid version, where you can also see like the recuperation and so on. And in the lower part, you can see we depleted half of the battery now. And wheelbase has been increased just a little bit. Let's see how that plays out. So there's also this gap at the back of the seat. The rear seat is a little bit high overall. That's actually good for children, and also to install some child seats. Yeah, we also have the children background screaming at the moment. So here with the knees, it does directly fit. I would have imagined maybe with the longer wheelbase that we have a little bit more leg room, but it's still okay for 4 tall adults. But you see, when you put the seat a little bit higher, it's a little bit more relaxing than for the rear passengers. But again, it's very well optimized for children here. Although I do also fit here, headroom still remains. So what about the trunk? You can also open it here with this foot kick opening mechanism if you have picked that option. So one kick and then it opens. So about 435 liters with the normal Kuga or with the Escape. Here you lose 30 liters with the PF, but I think you can live with that. You can even have some more space here underneath to store your cables and stuff. Welcome to Thomas's Driving Lounge with the all-new Ford Kuga or the Ford Escape. And we're starting here in the all-electric mode because we're driving the plug-in hybrid version. And that's of course always a pleasure. By the way, here, this is the Ford plant in Cologne. So the big German plant by Ford. And this is also the reason, because it's really huge, they produce a lot of cars here. Why Ford somewhat counts as a German manufacturer in Germany, because they're also producing here majorly. Yeah, interesting story, definitely. So driving here in the EV mode, and that's of course cool because it's all silent. You hear a little bit, of course, that on the outside, mandatory now from like an electric something sound, that it's not all silent on the exterior. And of course always relaxing, good that we have no local emissions. And the projected range also tells me at the moment, because we are at the moment also fully charged, is about 50 kilometers or 30 miles. And that's actually quite okay. You can use a lot of that, for example, for daily commuting and so on. So other than that, in the all EV mode, you got a decent acceleration. So you got some plug-in hybrids which are just laid out to be supportive, but this one can be driven all electric, no problem. And it's really a lot of fun, definitely, because all silent on the one hand, and it's also powerful on the other hand when you just put the throttle through. So really fine with this, with the acceleration. I can also do like a standstill acceleration, of course, as well. Usually it's the case that even though when you are in this EV mode, here's the River Rhine, by the way, so that the combustion engine hops on, that you feel like a threshold in the pedal. So let's just test how it's laid out right here. Interesting. So it stays actually in the electric mode. That's just with the Mitsubishi Outlander plug-in hybrid so far, and I think that's actually quite cool. And the power is also sufficient for that, you know. So let's pass the cyclist first in a safe way, always keeping maximum distance possible to cyclists, because when you're a cyclist yourself, oh, it's the old DS. Here we go. Yeah, and the electric acceleration is actually quite fine. So really happy with that. We can, for example, accelerate out of this traffic light here situation, and we can also show you a standstill. And this is always cool when you are in these traffic light situations, that it's then predominantly silent, but like this electric sound is one of the rare EV cars or plug-in hybrid cars where you actually hear the sound that's generated on the exterior, also on the interior. Maybe we can hear it even. It's even better to hear when we have the windows closed. This vehicle, by the way, equipped with the optional noise cancellation, so picking up the sounds that are generated. Oh, let's accelerate. Plop, that's 50 kilometers an hour. So you see, it's not like an explosion, but it's definitely quite reasonable. And again, I found it quite cool that it actually stays in the electric mode. If you want to change that, you can do that anytime, with this drive mode selector here. So you have all electric driving, then there's EV later, that EV charge is being left for later, for like an emission zone that might, occur at some point. Or you can also charge it, then the combustion engine hops on and charges the battery, that's possible. Or you put it to the so-called auto EV, normal operation mode, and then the car is deciding on its own what to do. So that can be like this, when we're not accelerating hard, that we just stay in the all-electric mode. And, that's then also fine for the car. But here then in this mode, when I would just jump the throttle, then the combustion engine gets active and is using both powers. Just EV driving, by the way, is limited to a speed of 135 kilometers an hour. So that's like 80 miles an hour, something like that. Should be, yeah, approximately like that. So you can always drive in the auto mode, of course, or you want to be like in the EV mode and want to, use most electric power as possible and then recharge again. I think it really depends on your driving profile what makes more sense. Well, about the all-new Kuga or Escape in general, you definitely still feel a resemblance to the outgoing model, so you feel it's not like a completely different car. It has grown a little bit in size, but that's not so significantly notable. It's a little bit cleaner from the layout, you have a good overview. From the sporty exterior, you would think maybe the overview is worse or you feel cramped inside, but that's actually not the case. So, what you might think, just from the visual perception there in this case, is actually not true. And it's actually very easy to ease this car around. It's not too big, has still like this good compromise size. We talked about earlier, we're driving the Vignale version, and this one here is also equipped with the optional 20-inch wheels, which look amazing, of course. But the thing is, the ride gets a little bit stiff by that. So if the riding comfort is something to your concern, then I would not go for the 20-inch wheels. Again, they look amazing, but you do feel like when you're going through some bumps, it almost feels like we would have a sport suspension or so, but it's not the case for this vehicle and not for this trim level. So always have to think about what's your major objective then when buying this vehicle. I would definitely not go for the 20-inch wheels. Head-up display, taking a look at that. It's not that helpful as it would be directly projected into the windscreen with this separate layer. That's of course like a cost-saving method. Then again, it's good to have that one, than having nothing. So here also in this automatic driving mode, of course, we can use this EV driving, standing still, and of course everything is silent again and no emissions. And that's also where we know what the plug-in hybrids are made for, definitely. As for the noise cancelling technology, so far it has been quite silent in here. We'll also first want to show some city driving and stuff. Let's also head out to the motorway very soon to show some higher speed and also how the noise insulation performs there. I can just say really enjoying driving this one all silent, all electric, and again it's really powerful enough to drive only on that. Driving wise, I mean, it's always more fun in this EV mode, and now we accelerate from 40 to 100. Plop. That's already it, and this was now the combined acceleration, so EV and combustion engine, and that of course went quicker, and then we also finally heard something of the combustion engine. So when you need more acceleration, it's always there. Then on the left side of the steering wheel you can set the cruise control, also available in adaptive way right here. Then the distance to this car in front of us is being kept. So let's move over here, and this Porsche Macan will probably drive faster than allowed. And then, yeah, thank you. Because then we can also see the blind spot monitor there. It's reacting a little bit late, maybe, not that early, but definitely great to have that. See that flashing in the side mirror there. Here also the active lane keeping assist, so let's stress that. See here the car is being kept in the lane, also when I try to force it, again being centralized. But you see there are quite a lot of sometimes nervous reaction from that, and the steering wheel then feels a little bit loose then. You can also deactivate it here at the steering wheel, and then you have don't have that if you don't fancy this lane keeping assist, yeah. But then again, even if it's deactivated, the steering feels a little bit too light for my taste in this lower angle. Then let's go back to the all-electric mode again. But again, when you are in the automatic driving mode and you have rolling situations now where the speed was being reduced and so on, then the car does that for you anyway. So really depends on how you want it as a driving. There is, by the way, also this L driving mode. And when you then actually leave the throttle, here now there's this construction site and at the bridge, then you have more recuperation. So that would also be an option. Press this L mode, and when you then leave the throttle, you can see there's more, approximately double the recuperation. So if you are predominantly driving this one in the EV mode, and then say, fancy more this one pedal feeling and so on, this could actually be a possibility for you switching to this L mode. And now to our conclusion for today with the all-new Ford Kuga, with the all-new Ford Escape. Well, on the exterior, definitely a sportier styling than before. Almost looks like this SUV coupe-ish. And does it hold it also in driving? Yes, indeed, it is a little sportier ride than before. The stiffness of the chassis has also been improved, and especially here with the plug-in hybrid version, it's a lot of fun to drive. With 20-inch wheels, of course, a little bit too stiff in the ride. You have to pay attention to that when ordering the car. But especially as the plug-in hybrid version, the EV driving is quite efficient. It also is a lot of fun, actually. You have enough power, you can drive all electric. The question is, do you have the charging infrastructure at home or at work, or both in the best case? Then it really makes sense for you also. Financially, depends on governmental benefits and also on the long-term usage of the vehicle. But definitely, probably the most interesting version. There will also be the mild hybrids and also the inbuilt hybrids. So a lot of hybridization at the new Ford models, definitely. So the styling, definitely pretty sporty, different than the predecessor, but I overall like it. On the interior, the build quality has been upgraded, although it's definitely not best in segment. That's not where Ford really puts the focus on. The riding, again, is pretty decent. Would have wished a little bit more feeling in the steering wheel, and I think the best thing about this car is the noise insulation with this active noise cancelling system. It is somehow a different feeling than the physical noise insulation that manufacturers put a lot of effort in. Here it's a different approach. It definitely feels different on the inside. You probably got to test it yourself if it's fine to you. To us, it was actually quite fine. Then the Vignale version we had here today, this top trim level is of course not a good price-performance ratio. Then the vehicle is about 51K, and that's of course too expensive for a Ford Kuga or for a Ford Escape. This car really makes sense when it's at a good price-performance ratio, 25K entry level, maybe some equipment in it at lowest trim level or middle trim level. Then it really makes sense when you get a like 30,000 euro or dollar car, and then it also again plays out this good price performance ratio. That's also why this car has been so successful in the predecessor. So what do you think here about our driving today? Please leave us your feedback. Also tune into some of the competitor cars. We'll link them in the video description or in the pinned comment. See you there or at one of our next new reviews. Thank you so much for tuning in.